There was certainly an element of making my grandfather proud and honouring him by taking part in the award that has been so much of his life's work, and I definitely hope that had made him proud.
In a shocking turn of events, Lady Louise Windsor has been granted lifetime tenancy of the coveted Balmoral Cottage, a property Prince Harry and Meghan Markle believed was promised to them by the late Queen Elizabeth. This unexpected inheritance has left the Sussexes devastated and fuming, as they realize the Queen's final wishes were not as they had hoped. What does this decision reveal about the royal family's internal dynamics? And why was Lady Louise chosen over Harry? So, what do you think? Was Lady Louise the right choice for the Balmoral Cottage, or should it have gone to Harry and Meghan? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. To help us create more videos and uncover the latest royal drama, please subscribe. The Balmoral Cottage Inheritance. In March 2026, the royal family was hit with a shocking revelation that sent ripples through the media and beyond. Documents filed with the Scottish Land Registry uncovered a startling piece of information. Lady Louise Windsor, the Queen's granddaughter, had been granted a lifetime tenancy of the historic Balmoral Cottage. To many, this might seem like just another royal decision, but for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, it was a deeply personal blow. For years, the Sussexes had believed that the late Queen Elizabeth II had made a special promise to them regarding the cottage, a cherished home nestled on the Balmoral estate in Scotland, a place with profound emotional significance to the family. The couple had always envisioned themselves spending quiet, peaceful moments there, a retreat from the intense media scrutiny that followed them around the globe. However, that dream was shattered when the official documents made it clear that the cottage was not theirs to claim. Instead, it had been passed on to Lady Louise, who, as the Queen's granddaughter, had secured a permanent place in the home. The news hit Prince Harry and Meghan with an unexpected force, leaving them reeling. For months, they had quietly assumed that Balmoral Cottage was a promise from Queen Elizabeth, a promise that would provide them with the space and solace they so desperately needed. To discover that Lady Louise had been granted the tenancy instead was more than just a simple oversight. It felt like a betrayal, one that stirred up feelings of abandonment and hurt. For Harry, especially, the emotional weight of the revelation was crushing. Balmoral had always been a place of deep personal connection for him, and the idea that it was now in someone else's hands, especially someone so closely tied to the royal line, was a bitter pill to swallow.
Well, first of all, he'd take me on a different route every day, and I do not know how he managed to do that.
Meghan, too, shared his pain, as the couple had dreamed of using the space as a haven, away from the relentless spotlight they faced on a daily basis. The documents, now publicly accessible, sparked heated debates and conversations within royal circles, with many speculating about the behind-the-scenes negotiations and decisions. But for Harry and Meghan, the revelation wasn't just about paperwork or legalities. It was a stark reminder of the complexities and the emotional toll of being part of a family bound by tradition, expectations, and a legacy that often seemed to work against them. The betrayal they felt was not only a blow to their personal sense of security, but also to their trust in the institution that had promised them so much. In a surprising turn of events within the British royal family, Balmoral Cottage, which Harry and Meghan believed would be theirs, was instead passed on to Lady Louise. But what made Harry and Meghan so sure that it would be theirs after the Queen's passing? Could they have been assured of inheriting the cottage? Let's find out. The Sussexes' disappointment for years, Harry and Meghan held on to the belief that Garden Cottage, tucked away in the heart of the Balmoral estate, would one day be their retreat. The cottage, charming and secluded, was the perfect hideaway from the pressures of royal life. During a visit to the estate in 2022, the late Queen Elizabeth II had personally shown them the property, and in that moment, the Sussexes felt a deep sense of hope. The Queen had made it clear that, should they ever return to royal duties, the cottage would be there waiting for them. It was a quiet promise, a gesture that seemed to offer them both solace and a place to call their own within the royal fold. Leaving Balmoral that day, Harry and Meghan felt secure in the understanding that Garden Cottage would be theirs whenever they chose to step back into their roles within the family. The idea of returning to royal duties seemed distant at the time, but the cottage symbolized more than just a place to live. It was a connection, a way back to the family and their place within the monarchy. They believed the decision had already been made, and all they had to do was return. What they never anticipated, however, was that the Queen had made a very different decision behind closed doors, one that would turn their hopes upside down. The promise that Harry and Meghan had carried with them for so long wasn't as solid as they had thought. Behind the scenes, the Queen had quietly altered the arrangement, making choices that the couple would only come to learn of later. In the world of the royal family, things were rarely as they seemed. and this unexpected twist would soon shake their understanding of the future they had envisioned. When the truth eventually came to light, it left Harry and Meghan blindsided. The idea that the cottage was now off limits to them was not only disappointing, but also deeply personal. It was a sharp reminder of the complexities within the royal family, where promises could be made, but their true meaning and value were often subject to the unseen forces at play. For Harry and Meghan, the realization that their connection to the royal estate was not as firm as they had thought added yet another layer of tension to an already strained relationship with the family. It was a moment of clarity, revealing that even the most well-meaning gestures could be undone behind closed doors, leaving them to question the true nature of their place in the royal world. Beyond the Queen's decision not to pass the property to Harry and Meghan as they had hoped, and instead leaving it to Lady Louise, what could have influenced her choice? Was there something Lady Louise did that Harry and Meghan didn't? Now, let's unravel why Lady Louise was chosen to inherit royal property over Harry. A deliberate choice. The question that lingered in the air was a puzzling one. Why was Lady Louise, who isn't higher in the line of royal succession than Prince Harry, chosen to inherit such a significant and symbolic piece of royal property? The answer, many believe, can be traced back to the values that Queen Elizabeth held dear. Behind the decision was the Queen's desire to honor her grandchildren who had shown unwavering loyalty, humility, and a genuine commitment to royal duties, traits that stood in stark contrast to the public spectacle often associated with the royal family. In the eyes of Queen Elizabeth, it wasn't about who was next in line or who commanded the most attention, but about who quietly embodied the values of the monarchy in their actions, not just their titles. Lady Louise, the Queen's eldest granddaughter, stood out for her quiet demeanor and discretion. Known for keeping a low profile,
unlike her older cousins, Princes William and Harry, Louise was able to see a lot more of her grandparents growing up.
Louise had never sought the spotlight like some of her cousins. Instead, she focused on her role within the royal family, demonstrating loyalty without expecting any fanfare. She had been steady and dependable, committed to her duties without the constant media attention that often came with them. Queen Elizabeth deeply admired this kind of loyalty. In a family often caught up in public drama, Lady Louise remained humble, always honoring royal traditions and expectations. While others might have sought attention or fame, Louise's quiet dedication stood out. She embodied the kind of values the Queen held dear, offering a strong, steady presence that perfectly reflected the royal legacy Elizabeth cherished, one built on respect, commitment, and timeless dignity. The decision was not made casually. Many believe that the Queen wanted to entrust the royal estate to someone who truly understood the weight of being part of the royal family, a person who would honor its rich history with the reverence it deserved. In Lady Louise, the Queen recognized these qualities. She saw in her a reflection of the values that shaped her own reign: loyalty, a deep sense of discretion, and an unshakable commitment to duty. For the Queen, it was clear that Lady Louise embodied the spirit of the royal family.
Lady Louise has taken on an increasingly public role, as her parents, the Earl and Countess of Wessex,
and would preserve its legacy with dignity. While the decision to grant her such an important piece of royal property may have been a surprise to some, it was clear that Lady Louise was more than just another grandchild. She was the one who best represented the kind of royal future the Queen had always hoped for, the quiet, humble heir to a legacy that would endure far beyond the headlines. Lady Louise's loyalty to the Queen earned her the inheritance of Balmoral Cottage. But is Balmoral Cottage truly a valuable gift for any royal family member? And what makes this property stand out among the rest? Now, let's explore why Garden Cottage became the royal family's most coveted inheritance. More than just a property, Balmoral Castle, nestled in the breathtaking Scottish Highlands, is far more than just a royal estate. It's a living testament to centuries of tradition and a cherished sanctuary for the royal family. Over the years, it has become synonymous with peace, reflection, and a deep connection to the monarchy's roots. For Queen Elizabeth II, Balmoral held a special place in her heart. It wasn't just a residence, it was the place she felt most at home, away from the eyes of the public. Here, the Queen could step back from the heavy responsibilities of royal life and embrace a simpler, more private existence. Balmoral was more than just a grand estate. It was a sanctuary that represented the private side of royal life, far removed from the constant public gaze. For many members of the royal family, it served as a peaceful getaway, a place where they could step away from the relentless demands of their royal responsibilities. But for Queen Elizabeth, it held a deeper significance. Balmoral was her cherished retreat, offering a rare space of calm and serenity. Surrounded by nature, It was here that she found the quiet solace she needed to recharge.
This is a duty I'm especially happy to discharge, as the impact of the environment on human progress,
making it a refuge like no other royal residence could offer. Among the various cottages on the Balmoral estate, Garden Cottage stood out as a particularly special place. It wasn't just any piece of real estate, it was a symbol of privacy and peace. Tucked away on the estate, it was a haven where the royals could retreat for some much-needed quiet time. Its appeal wasn't in its size or opulence, but in the quiet refuge it provided, away from the public eye. It was a cherished space where cherished family moments and personal memories were made, and as such, it became a coveted inheritance. For years, Balmoral and its cottages represented more than just property. They were part of the royal legacy. The passing of the estate was a deeply emotional decision for the family, as it held the stories of generations before them. It wasn't just about land and buildings. It was about the memories, the history, and the deep sense of belonging that the estate offered. Garden Cottage, with its tranquility and seclusion, was seen as a symbol of this intimate connection to the royal family's past and their shared experiences. In a family where the demands of duty often overshadow personal wishes, Balmoral and its cottages remained one of the few places where the royals could truly be themselves. This made the estate not just a valuable inheritance, but a symbol of their deep-rooted connection to their history and to each other. Beyond the Balmoral Cottage, which was gifted to Lady Louise as a legacy of the monarchy, what is the relationship between Lady Louise and Queen Elizabeth? Could Lady Louise have secured a special place in the Queen's heart? Now, let's dive into Lady Louise's dedication to the royal family. The unseen bond with Queen Elizabeth, Lady Louise Windsor, has long been a steady and loyal presence in the royal family, supporting her grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, in a quiet yet deeply meaningful way. Unlike some of her more public-facing relatives, Louise's approach was humble and unassuming, which only strengthened her bond with the Queen. Their shared love for carriage driving became a unique and personal connection, one that went beyond just royal duties. It was during these moments, whether practicing in the countryside or taking leisurely drives, that Louise and the Queen formed a special friendship, built on mutual respect and a shared passion. Following the death of Prince Philip, Louise became an even more frequent companion to the Queen, offering a comforting presence during a time of great loss. With the Duke of Edinburgh's absence, the Queen found solace in spending time with her granddaughter, who had always been there for her in a more personal and less public capacity. It was at Balmoral, the Queen's beloved retreat in the Scottish Highlands, where the two spent many hours together. Louise could often be found alongside the Queen in the stables, a place that held such meaning for them both. The stable was not just a royal backdrop, but a refuge, where the Queen could feel connected to both her family and the simpler pleasures of her life. Louise's quiet commitment and her constant presence for her grandmother, without seeking attention or praise, truly stood out. The Queen saw how Louise had been there for her family, through thick and thin, especially following the loss of Prince Philip. In a family where public responsibilities often took precedence over personal connections, Louise's dedication was a refreshing exception. Her loyalty was genuine and unshakable, and the Queen, recognizing the depth of this devotion, knew it deserved acknowledgement. Louise's thoughtful support, which had always been there behind the scenes, spoke volumes about her love and respect for her family, especially in challenging times. Louise's role as one of the Queen's most trusted companions in those final years was not about the limelight. It was about being present when it mattered most, offering comfort and carrying on royal traditions in her own humble way. This quiet but powerful loyalty made Lady Louise an integral part of the Queen's life, someone who could be relied on when the family needed it the most. And in turn, the Queen's recognition of Louise's dedication became a reflection of the bond they had built over the years, one of loyalty, respect, and love. Lady Louise showed great compassion to the Queen when she needed it the most. But could that have been the reason the Queen chose to pass the cottage to her? And why was Harry, a senior royal member, not considered? Could stepping away from royal duties have caused Harry to lose the cottage? Let's find out. A message of loyalty. Queen Elizabeth's choice to leave Garden Cottage to Lady Louise Windsor was far more than a casual family decision. It was a deeply thoughtful and deliberate one. The Queen wasn't swayed by who ranked highest in the line of succession or who had the most media attention. Instead, she focused on the individual who had shown unwavering commitment to royal duties. year after year, without ever craving the spotlight. Her decision reflected a deeper understanding that true dedication to the monarchy is about consistent actions and service, not about titles or public recognition. This personal and meaningful gesture highlights the Queen's true values and priorities. Prince Harry's choice to step back from royal duties and build a new life in California marked a clear departure from the expectations placed on him as a member of the royal family. While his decision was understandable and part of his own journey, it left a gap in the royal family's inner circle. On the other hand, Lady Louise had chosen a different path, one of loyalty and commitment to her family, even though she never sought public acclaim. She quietly embraced her royal role, honoring the responsibilities that came with it, but never using her position to draw attention to herself. For Queen Elizabeth, loyalty was never about grand declarations or showy gestures. It wasn't something that could be earned by words alone. It was about consistent presence and the quiet, steady actions that proved one's devotion over time. Lady Louise's commitment to the royal family was evident in the way she carried herself and in her actions behind the scenes. She had remained a reliable and constant presence, especially in the years following Prince Philip's passing, when her grandmother needed her most.
Right now, the City of London mourning the loss of Prince Philip. The husband of Queen Elizabeth has died at the age of 99. He had been in and out of the hospital.
Whether accompanying the Queen on trips to Balmoral or simply providing company during private moments, Louise had consistently shown that her loyalty was not tied to fame or public recognition, but to the values that held the family together. This is why Garden Cottage, a place symbolizing privacy and peace, was passed to Louise. It wasn't about who had the loudest presence in the media or who was next in line for the throne. It was about who had stood by the Queen, showing unwavering support and commitment in a world full of distractions and fleeting moments. For the Queen, true loyalty had always been about the quiet, everyday actions that spoke louder than any words ever could. Lady Louise, in her own humble way, embodied that loyalty, and in return, the Queen made sure her dedication was acknowledged in the most meaningful way possible. The Queen truly cherished Lady Louise's presence, especially at a time when Harry was far away, living abroad. But how devastating was it for the Queen not to have Harry around during the final years of her life? Could it have been so difficult for her to forgive him that she ultimately decided to deny him Balmoral Cottage? Let's find out. The unforgivable stress in Queen's final years. Queen Elizabeth II's deep affection for her grandson, Prince Harry, was clear to everyone who knew her. However, those closest to the Queen have revealed that his actions,
with a little help from her grandson, the Queen has dusted down her acting skills once again.
Especially those alongside Meghan Markle, created immense tension in her final years. Royal biographer Hugo Vickers, in his book Queen Elizabeth II, A Personal History, details how Harry and Meghan's choice to step away from royal duties, coupled with their public criticisms, placed significant emotional strain on the Queen. Sources within the palace described the stress they caused as unforgivable, deeply affecting the Queen during a challenging period of her life. The biographer, relying on accounts from palace insiders, reveals the tremendous strain Queen Elizabeth faced during this challenging time. Harry and Meghan's decision to step away from royal duties, combined with their outspoken criticisms of the family, quickly became the center of intense media scrutiny and royal turmoil. These events marked an unexpected and painful chapter in the Queen's life. Having spent her entire reign committed to safeguarding the unity and traditions of the monarchy, she now found herself grappling with a deeply personal dilemma that played out in the public eye, testing both her resilience and the very foundation of the royal family's legacy. For Queen Elizabeth, who had always placed great importance on tradition and the stability of the monarchy, the unfolding situation was a blow, not just to her family, but to the very core of what she had spent her life defending. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's decision to step away from their roles and their subsequent interviews and statements brought public scrutiny and family tension to the forefront. At a time when the Queen should have been focusing on her final years, enjoying the peace that comes with age, she found herself embroiled in a crisis that threatened the very structure of the royal family. This situation highlighted the stark contrast between her personal affection for Harry, who had always been a beloved member of the family, and the weight of the royal expectations he seemed to reject. The Queen, always devoted to the monarchy and its traditions, was forced to balance her love for her grandson with the responsibility of maintaining the integrity of the institution she had led for decades. It was a deeply painful chapter for the Queen, one that tested her strength, resolve, and sense of duty during a time when she should have been able to step back and focus on the legacy she had built. The personal and public clash created a turbulent period for the Queen that was far removed from the tranquility she had hoped for in her later years. Queen Elizabeth was truly saddened not having Harry close to her when she needed him the most. But could this have justified denying Harry and Meghan the Balmoral Cottage? And why did Harry and Meghan feel betrayed when they lost the cottage? Let's uncover the details. The emotional impact. For Harry and Meghan, the news that Lady Louise Windsor would be given Garden Cottage hit hard. Balmoral wasn't just any estate to Harry, it was a treasured part of his childhood.
Hi, the folks today we're at Balmoral. Just arrived here, it's just before 10 o'clock.
This Scottish retreat was filled with memories of summers spent with family, a place where Harry had always felt close to his roots. To lose that connection was more than just a family decision. It felt like a piece of his past was slipping away, leaving him devastated and questioning the meaning of these royal traditions. For Harry, Balmoral held a deep emotional connection to his late mother, Princess Diana. He cherished the tranquility it offered, a place where he could escape the relentless attention of the public and find solace in nature's embrace. The idea of returning there one day, possibly with his own family, had always been a comforting thought. However, that dream was shattered when he discovered the cottage, once a symbol of peace and family, would no longer be a part of his future, leaving him feeling heartbroken and betrayed. Meghan, too, had developed a deep affection for Balmoral and its cottages. She had often expressed how much she looked forward to the idea of one day sharing it with their children, envisioning it as a place where they could learn about their Scottish heritage and spend quality time away from the spotlight. To Meghan, the cottage symbolized a calm and private space for her family, a retreat where they could create their own memories. The news that Garden Cottage had been passed on to Lady Louise, someone not directly in line with Harry for the property, felt like a sharp, personal betrayal. The timing of this decision only added to the weight of the blow. The Sussexes' relationship with the royal family had already been strained for years. Their decision to step back from royal duties and carve out a new life in California had caused tension, and public disagreements had only deepened the rift. The passing of such a meaningful family asset to Lady Louise, instead of Harry, seemed to signal that the family was further distancing itself. What once was a place of solace and connection now felt like a symbol of everything that had gone wrong between the Sussexes and the royal family. For Harry and Meghan, this was more than just a matter of property. It was a reminder that their place within the royal fold was becoming more and more uncertain. It wasn't just the cottage that they had lost. It was the sense of belonging they had once felt. The decision left them feeling isolated, adding another layer of tension to an already fragile relationship with the royal family. It was a moment that underscored the painful reality of their current situation, making their already fractured ties with the monarchy feel even more broken. Harry and Meghan felt betrayed losing the Balmoral Cottage because they believed they were more entitled to it than Lady Louise. But what does Lady Louise inheriting the cottage over them really mean? Could the Queen have been sending a message with this gift? And if so, what message might that be? Let's uncover the details. The bigger picture. The Balmoral inheritance went beyond who would claim the royal cottage. It became a symbol of deeper tensions within the royal family. The decision regarding Garden Cottage revealed the growing divide between Harry, Meghan, and the rest of the royal family. The Queen's decision to pass the property to Lady Louise Windsor wasn't merely about tradition. It sent a powerful message about loyalty, allegiance, and family unity. It highlighted how the royal family's values were evolving, and how some members, like Harry and Meghan, felt increasingly disconnected from these expectations, fostering a sense of betrayal and alienation. For years, Harry and Meghan had clashed with the royal family, choosing to distance themselves by stepping away from royal duties and sharing their personal struggles. Their move to California, seeking a life away from the public eye, only deepened the rift between them and their relatives. The Balmoral inheritance seemed like the ultimate symbol of this growing divide, a final signal that their relationship with the monarchy was forever altered. It marked a poignant moment in their journey, one that highlighted their desire for independence and reinforced their separation from the heart of the royal family. By choosing Lady Louise, who had remained quietly devoted to the family, the Queen sent a clear signal. Louise had consistently shown her loyalty without seeking attention, staying out of the media glare and focusing on her royal responsibilities in a humble, dignified way. The Queen's decision was a reflection of her belief in the importance of tradition, duty, and the commitment to royal life. For her, loyalty wasn't about titles or public recognition. It was about quietly standing by the family year after year. In contrast, Harry and Meghan's departure from royal life, alongside their public criticisms of the family, painted a different picture. Their decision to distance themselves from royal responsibilities, combined with their outspoken interviews and public disagreements, had created a rift that was hard to ignore. For the Queen, the Balmoral decision reinforced the sense that Harry and Meghan had become increasingly disconnected from the values that had always defined the royal family. The passing of Garden Cottage to Lady Louise instead of Harry highlighted how the couple's position within the royal family had become more marginalized over time. What might have once been seen as a right or expectation for Harry, an inheritance from his grandmother, was now out of reach. The cottage, once envisioned as a potential place for Harry and Meghan to retreat to, now symbolized the divide between them and the monarchy. This decision underscored the harsh reality. Their ties to the royal family, though still present, were growing more distant with every passing year. While Queen Elizabeth may have been sending a message with the gift, Harry and Meghan felt they were being marginalized by the very institution they came from. But how did Lady Louise react to receiving the gift? Was she excited, or did she remain diplomatic and composed in her response? And what does this mean for the future of the monarchy? Let's find out. A quiet inheritance for the future. Lady Louise Windsor, despite being the recipient of the royal Balmoral Cottage, has remained remarkably silent about the inheritance. Unlike other members of the royal family who often share their thoughts with the public, Louise has not made any public statements regarding this significant moment. Friends close to her, however, say that she was both surprised and deeply touched by the Queen's thoughtful gesture. For someone who has always preferred to stay out of the limelight, this inheritance was not something she had expected, yet it holds deep personal meaning for her. Instead of reveling in the public attention that typically follows royal inheritances, Louise has chosen a path of quiet appreciation. Her decision to keep her emotions private speaks to her natural preference for a life away from the spotlight. While other family members may often find themselves caught up in media frenzy, Louise's response is refreshingly understated. For her, the cottage holds far more significance than just royal property. It represents a deep connection to her family's history and the values that the late Queen held dear. In her calm and humble manner, Louise honors her heritage, keeping her personal feelings out of the public eye. Lady Louise has expressed plans to use Garden Cottage as a private retreat, a place where she can retreat from the pressures of royal life and spend time with her family. It is here that she hopes to continue the royal tradition of spending quiet, intimate weekends away from the media spotlight at Balmoral. The estate, with its serene landscape and peaceful environment, has always been a place where the royal family could escape and reconnect with one another. For Louise, the cottage represents a continuation of this tradition, one that is centered around family time, privacy, and reflection. Her choice to use the property in this way speaks volumes about her character. While many members of the royal family are accustomed to public attention and have often been embroiled in personal dramas, Louise's approach remains refreshingly humble. She has never sought fame or recognition, preferring instead to live a quiet life, have set her apart from many of her relatives, who have often found themselves in the midst of media storms. The contrast between Lady Louise's understated response to the inheritance and the public drama surrounding other members of the royal family could not be more striking. While her relatives have often been the subject of tabloid headlines and public controversy, Louise has carved out a different path for herself. She doesn't seek the spotlight, and her decisions reflect her desire to maintain her family's privacy and honor their traditions without fanfare. In an era where royal families are often under constant scrutiny, Louise's quiet, thoughtful approach to both her inheritance and her life stands as a testament to the values that the Queen held dear, values of loyalty, humility, and a deep respect for family. So, what do you think about Lady Louise inheriting the cottage? Has Queen Elizabeth decided the future of the monarchy? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.